Hello and welcome to another episode of the TF Cast. Today's date is December 22nd, 2021.
Today with us, we have Eli Hoehn of the Captain Gravitone and the String Theory Orchestra. We're ramping up to do a Triple Falls session with the band in January, right? January. And we're just here to talk about the project and get acquainted with Eli a little bit more. Eli, take a minute to tell us a little bit about yourself and the project, and maybe a little bit about the music festival you have coming up too.
Let's see. So, tell about myself. I've been playing in the area for, I don't know, maybe 10 years or something like that. I played with a number of different bands, and then I was working with a friend of mine, Wayne Schmidt, who's was a photographer who lived in St. Peter, and him and I started playing together under the name of String Theory. And later we had Jason Helder playing with us as a three-piece. And eventually we discovered that there was 14 other string theory bands that played around, and we thought, maybe we should choose a different name. And so we were going like, oh, well, what should we call ourselves? And we had just put out this CD called, it was called "What's the Matter with Captain Gravitone," which is the name of a instrumental song that I had written quite a while ago. And Jason goes, well, we could call ourselves Captain Graviton, because originally it was Graviton, not Gravitone. So it was named after the minimal unit of gravity, the Graviton. Turns out that Marvel has like a villain called Graviton. So we thought, oh, yeah, we don't want Marvel coming after us because we're using their name. You know, it's like, sure. And then so Jason said, well, I think Gravitone is the Italian version of that. So, okay, that sounds even cooler than Graviton. So we decided on Gravitone, but we were concerned about like the 4 or 5 people who knew us as String Theory. So we came up with the Captain Gravitone and the String Theory Orchestra bit. And then eventually the group got bigger and now it looks more like an orchestra, I guess. So anyways, that's some of the backstory of Captain Gravitone. I don't know how interesting that is, but
very
compelling.
Before.
Are the
compelling.
What's the team look like now? Can you what's the band?
Well, you know, we've gone through lots of various changes. People have come and people have gone, and people have come back and they've gone again. So we decided, the three of us, Jason and Wayne and myself, decided we wanted a drummer and a bass player. And so we ended up with Damon Price playing drums with us. And, you know, there was a website that I think it's called like Gigmore or something like that. So we were looking for somebody to play bass, and I think Jason did this, and we ended up finding Kelly Coyle. And so he was playing bass, and then over time, I decided that this would be so much cooler if we had a tuba player instead of a bass player, you know. So we switched Kelly from bass to guitar. So now he plays a guitar. Okay. We have a tuba player, Sarah Hoole, who plays in lots of different groups around and lots of brass instruments besides the tuba, but she plays a tuba called Tubert. And we have a guy from New Ulm, Nate Barron, who plays trombone and accordion. So, you know, it's starting to get like heavy. Lots of stuff.
It's having an accordion player from New Ulm is almost essential. I mean,
it is.
If you're in the area, that would be the prime spot to grab one from. What draws you to like that type of instrumentation? What was was it just the way the group was going, or was it like a preconceived idea that you wanted to head towards?
Just, I guess, total happenstance. It's just a situation where, when Jason was playing with us, he's not part of the band anymore, but when he was playing with us, he's, said, we should have a drummer and a bass player. So we oh, sure, why not? Let's get a drummer and a bass player. So we got one. And then I had visited New Orleans with my girlfriend, Trudy, and we're down there listening to all this cool brass stuff. You know, everybody's got trombones and trumpets and tubas. And I'm listening to this stuff going like, wow, this is really, really cool. So I decided at that moment, I'm going to work towards getting brass instruments in the band. And so we found Nate, and then eventually Sarah. And so now we've got brass instruments.
When you're moving from a just a regular string bass over to a tuba, like how does that change the overall feel of the song or the way that you have to play it? I imagine that a tuba doesn't. I mean, it can't maybe play as fast. Or I don't actually know anything about playing the tuba, so.
Yeah, well, first of all, the sound is significantly different. You know, I mean, they're both in the same area of the sound spectrum pretty much, but the tuba just has this really nice, I don't know, very resonant, very cool, mellow feel to it. And, you know, I'm not sure that it would sound nearly as good if Sarah wasn't such a good tuba player. And then, you know, when we're playing out, we have a microphone, just stick a microphone down the bell of her tuba, basically. And you know, and if you're not careful, you know, it can start destroying the structure of the building that you're in, you know, and it's pretty powerful. It can be really powerful. You know, and the bass, there's more note bending, and I think, you know, in the hands of somebody like Kelly Coyle, who's pretty proficient at playing the bass, you know, there's notes flying all over the place, and some of that really can't be replicated on the tuba. But you know, it's kind of a growing experience. We're trying to figure out, you know, how best to do it. But in some cases, we've taken note for note exactly what Kelly was playing on the bass and transposed them over to the tuba, you know, and then sometimes we're listening to it going, that doesn't sound right. So, but Sarah's really good at figuring out, you know, like, how do I make this work? So she's the one that makes all that happen.
What inspires the writing process for the project? Do you kind of take that solo, or is it a group effort?
Originally, when Jason and Wayne and I were playing together, there was a lot of collaboration. But as all those guys started dropping out of the band, suddenly I was the only one left that was writing. And so pretty soon, you know, everybody else is just going like, you know, the expectation, I think, at this point is that I'm writing stuff, and they're just saying like, what do you want us to play? You know, we'll do whatever you want, which is cool, you know. And you've got some high caliber musicians going, just tell us what to play and we'll play it, you know. So yeah, I'm pretty much the one at this point.
Cool.
I was taking, when I was introduced to the band, I was taking bass lessons from Kelly, and he had me poke around the website at the time and look at some of your charts, which were really interesting to me as a person who was just, you know, getting into it, because it was, you know, there was like notation in there, kind of like a jazz lead sheet or whatever.
Sure.
And there was some notes. So I thought it was pretty interesting to see the way that people would learn those songs and then think about going backwards, like, how would I come to like comprehend being given this thing? And it changed my thinking a little bit. So I was privy to some of those conversations, you know, with him about that. So it's pretty interesting to hear about changing over from like him being a bass player to a guitar player and bringing a tuba in, and how you would, you know, go after those problems that would arise from that. And beyond just the instrumentation, like your 2018 album was circus themed. What was the inspiration behind that? And you know, what just generally led you down that path?
Well, I guess after we came up with the Captain Gravitone figure, I thought it would be kind of cool to develop a backstory, you know, and kind of flesh out in story fashion, who this person is. Suddenly you have this figure, like, what is it? It's not me. I mean, I'm not Captain Gravitone. I'm trying to make essentially a superhero out of this guy. I mean, he's totally fictitious. And so we're developing a backstory, and I'd come up with a song called A Real Fine Day When the Circus Comes to Town. And originally the intention was that it was a political commentary. It's like, during campaigns, you hear all these people, they're the circus, I mean, it's just a total shit show. You have all these people, they'll say whatever you want them to, they'll say whatever you want to hear, essentially.
Certainly.
And so, that was kind of the inspiration of the song. But after a while, after I'd written it, I was thinking, circus, how can I make this work? And then I thought, oh, I know. So when Captain Gravitone was a young boy, he grew up in a circus. That's it. And not only that, he was, all of his friends and the people that he knew and loved, they were all circus freaks. That's it. And so then we started, like, who are these people anyways, So there's so there's Jojo, the dog-faced boy. That's his friend, growing up. He's got this kid who's, and Miss Louise. And actually, when I was writing the song, A Real Fine Day When the Circus Comes to Town, I actually just went on the internet and started poking around looking for, like, cool instances of circus freak show people. And there was a Miss Louise, and she had a den full of gators. And so that's one of the lines, Miss Louise and her den full of gators. And then there was this strong man who, like, he would have these 4 stout dudes sitting on a bench, and then he would pick them up, like, with his, he'd have some kind of apparatus, and he'd pick them up with his teeth, basically, And so anyways, I just started adding all of these little interesting things to the song, and it kind of wrote itself. I mean, it was the easiest song I ever wrote, really. It was just like, wow. You did it for me. All I have to do is figure out what order I want these things to happen in, and there it is.
Yeah, it's a very visual storytelling experience, the album. Like it almost feels incomplete to not listen to the whole thing, because
right.
The characters do build in that way, and I'm an album person, so it hooked me in that way, like, pretty much right away.
Well, I'm an album person too, and it was conceived. If you're talking about the album Universe Parallel to Our Own, that was basically conceived as a story. It was meant to be listened to from the beginning to the end, but people don't listen to music that way anymore, So suddenly, you're listening to the last song first and the middle song second, and all of that, and But since I knew that when I was writing it, I was hoping that all the songs kind of stand on their own, so it doesn't need the other song to play first before you understand what's going on this particular song. So
I was just going to say, I've listened to it quite a bit after that day that we met out in New Ulm, and I just love the way you paint a picture so well in it, and I really feel like I'm there. I grew up obsessed with the circus, and I also grew up playing the tuba. So both of those things spoke to me pretty well. Yeah. And then the other thing I want to say is I think all 3 of us are the type of people that actually prefer to listen to albums.
Right.
Yeah. I know a lot of people these days listens to just a lot of playlists. Like, that's how Willis likes to listen. Right. But when someone puts the time into really crafting an album like that, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, cool.
I think a lot of people don't know the album isn't always introduced to people in that way anymore. Like, this is a complete thing, because a lot of times now it's a collection of singles that gets re-released as an album. But with a little bit of instructions, I think people can tell when an album is composed in that way, when something really flows. Because sometimes I feel a little bit jilted when I listen to new music, and it's like, oh, like, this song doesn't really make sense with the last one, or there's no, like, thing here. And I like all the music, but I don't know, just generally I like to hear the period of time.
It sounds like too with the album that was produced, it's a little bit like a concept album. I don't know if
It
you thought
is.
of it in that way,
Yep.
but
No, absolutely.
Sure.
You know, and
those typically
that's-
have a great timeline, like start to finish too, or a lot of opportunity there to explore it.
exactly. And that's, you know, that's kind of how I think about it myself. You know, it's not just a random collection of songs, you know, like, oh, we wrote this song, that's cool. We wrote this song, you know.
Yeah.
For me, for some reason, I don't know why, but it seems like they have to make sense together, you know. There's a larger thing, larger story that all the songs kind of fit into that you're trying to sell, you know, however, whatever that theme. So it's always kind of thematic, you know, for me. That's just the way I guess I'm wired. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, you know, I'm not a big fan of just random songs that just like fly by. and it was kind of interesting. I recently watched the Beatles documentary that came out recently, Get Back, and you know, if anybody wants to watch like 6 hours of people talking about music and, you know, what they should do and not do and this and that, that's a pretty interesting documentary. But I got the feeling throughout that that's the same kind of thing Paul is trying to do. You know, it's like, it's just a random bunch of songs, you know, they need to fit together. There needs to be some kind of like theme, and, you know, all we're doing is just playing a bunch of, you know. And I kind of get that.
How does that that theme or that kind of like album energy go into your live performances? Do you bring that same kind of energy there?
You know, that's a good question. I don't really think about it as much in the live performance because, you know, often I guess it depends on where the live performance is and what you're trying to accomplish with it. If I'm just playing in a bar, you know, I mean, first of all, you're not the center of attention necessarily. You know, a lot of times you're just in the background. You know, there's music playing. I'm going to sit here and have a conversation and drink a beer with my friend. You know, and in that case, I'm thinking about it differently. But if I'm playing a show, people have paid to go and see the show, then I think about it a lot more, you know, and like there's certain things I like to play songs that I know, you know, for me, I need to be warmed up before I can get to the more complicated stuff. So I have to have easier songs up front, songs that I can nail every single time I play. You know, kind of gives you a little confidence boost and stuff and gets your head straight, you know. And once you're in the groove, you know, and you can like, yeah, everything's going good, then you start, you know, getting into the more difficult stuff. And sometimes, you know, in a practical way, it's difficult to consider, like, you know, I mean, it's more difficult to consider the concept when you're doing that, I think. But
in the album, at least, I had noticed that a lot of the songs started out with kind of like, I don't know if you were trying to set the setting or whatever, but like they started with like simple motifs, like things that I recognize from like recordings of the circus, like the Big Top theme or like whatever. And then it like riffs off that into the more complicated stuff you were just talking about. And it helped me understand those things a little bit more because it was, you know, tied to the song in that way too. And I thought that was a little bit interesting that you said you need to, I didn't know if that's how you were trying to bring people into that in the recording, or if that was just how you were talking about warming up live.
Right. Well, I think it seems like you're referring to this, in particular, the song "A Real Fine Day When the Circus Comes to Town," because we get into the you know, and everybody recognizes that as the circus theme. You know, like it actually is a song that has a name and it's only part of a song. So we're playing that, and then the band members, because they're all nerds and they know all this stuff, they're going, "Oh, that's the song." And I'm going like, yeah, all I know is that when people hear it, they think of the circus. You know, I don't know what the name of the song is, but so we're throwing some of that stuff in, and you know, it's just kind of, I don't know, part of that also is just some of my background. I mean, I've always enjoyed people and composers that I don't know, that do a lot of interesting things and kind of keep you engaged. Frank Zappa comes to mind, like Pink Floyd comes to mind, the Beatles come to mind. They have some of these complex songs that kind of change direction and tell stories and do weird things that people don't expect. And so like A Real Fine Day When the Circus Comes to Town, it's, there's like 3 or 4 different parts to the song. Each part is a different time signature, and some of them are in different keys because they're all written separately. That's the way that I write. Usually I'm just kind of noodling around until I find a cool riff. And I go, oh, this is a cool riff. So then I kind of put it on the shelf, and then I go about my day or week or whatever, and then I come across another cool riff. And later on, when I'm getting to like, that riff and that riff, I wonder if I can put those 2 things together, oh yeah, that sounds cool together, And so you just start taking little riffs that you come up with in your library and start throwing them together, and they eventually evolve into a song if you put them in the right order, I guess. So
that is quite literally exactly how Onion Bun writes.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just how things happen for me personally. It's like, I can't really see that a song like it's just this thing with a like a verse and a chorus. It's almost impossible for me to like stop. I keep, it should have this other little thing, it's like, it needs this cool intro first, and then it needs to have this. And then it's like, it needs a bridge so that this part and this part, can like connect easier. And then it's like, there should be this different chord progression for the instrumental because, and of course, being a banjo player, my banjo is tuned to an open G tuning all the time. And so I have to be mindful of the fact that, there's this open G drone string, and if I pluck it when I'm playing a scale or in a key that doesn't have an open G note, it sounds really bad. Really bad, It's like, so, and of course, most banjo players use capos to compensate for that. And for some reason, I just never liked using capos. So I've always tried to play in the keys that have an open G note, a G natural in it, but occasionally I'll try to do something like we've been playing a Frank Zappa song called I'm the Slime, which is an F sharp minor. And so, there's not too many G notes in that song. But I play an open G. I just try not to touch that. Just keep my fingers away from it.
I got a follow-up to that. Do you have, in my band, Alex, our bass player, is very good at telling me to, like, hey, that's enough for this song. We need to move on, or at stripping stuff away. Do you have someone either in Graviton or someone that you show songs to that does that for you? Because without that, I would just literally cram as much information into a song as possible.
Yeah, until the song is like, well, I mean, yeah.
Or do you even have like a device or something you use to be like, okay, this song is done and I need to move on?
That's sometimes I guess what I've been doing more recently is I've discovered this free songwriting software called MuseScore. And I can't read music myself because, I know what the notes are. I can't sight read fast enough to be able to play. But I know enough to be able to write it. So and everybody else in the band can sight read music, which is really cool. And so I'll sit there and play around, and I'll take a piano part and copy it, and then I'll paste it in where the tuba is supposed to go, and then it compensates for like where it is. So it'll put the notes in the right places, or at least what the software thinks is the right places. So if I pasted something from a G, like in a key of G from a piano, and I pasted it into a B flat trumpet, it would put it where the trumpet player is expecting to see the notes, more or less. And then I can give, then I can play around with it, and I can like, oh, okay, the tuba should do this, and you can get some really complex things, and then I give them to the bandmates, and then they start going like, that's not really like what the tuba does, and so the trombone doesn't do that, like, that doesn't sound good, and so then we kind of go through the process of taking it from the conceptual stage to the actual, how do we actually play this on stage phase? And sometimes parts just, like, this part doesn't work, so let's just take it out, or, whatever. So the band helps out with that. They're pretty good at letting me know that, this is just not, this doesn't work for us.
That sounds like a pretty interesting way of doing things, and I guess it's probably normal in some circles with someone who's kind of writing for their band, where they draft the charts and then see how their team likes it. I guess I'm curious if you've tried different versions and you've gotten to that point as being the best for you or for your group, or really like what skill sets make that even possible, because it sounds kind of ambitious for someone to do.
Versions of song, like,
or different ways of writing, like whether you've tried writing as a group and it just kind of didn't work, or whether curious about your process there.
Well, I really like the idea of collaborating with people, and so when I did some of the most interesting stuff when I was working with Jason Helder and Wayne Schmidt, because we would sit there and kind of write things out. One of us would be we'd come up with a song, and then everybody else would be going, it'd be really cool if we changed keys right here and went to 5/4 time instead of this other one, well, let's try it, and so, no matter who wrote a song, it went through various transformations that the other members would throw in on, and, that's kind of how we worked. But in this group, it doesn't quite work that way, I guess.
Well, it seems like with it, you've taken some of that creative responsibility, and you've had success with doing that. And so that's kind of what I'm curious about, is whether there's maybe like a skill set that you rely on in doing that, whether it's songwriting in general, or whether it's like your ability to jam stuff out and then like imagine how it would be to play with a group. I guess it just sounds like something that would be difficult for someone who doesn't have whatever skill that is that you seem to possess.
I don't really know. I mean, okay. In my band, I'm the least of the musicians. I mean, everybody else in the band is a better musician than I am. I mean, they can play their instrument better than I can play my instrument. They know more about music than I know about music. And so I'll be doing something, and then they'll go, oh, well, that's F sharp minor flat 5, and that's this, and then you should play this other chord right there, and it's like, okay, I don't know any of that stuff. And so I just take what they say and kind of think about it, and like, what does that mean? And usually I don't know what it means. So, but at any rate, and so I think the thing that I do best is, write the music, and the band members, they're the ones that really like make it sound right, and then I can see when things aren't working well. I mean, when we're trying to play it in a rehearsal and it doesn't work, it's like, that needs to be redone. So
it sounds like maybe you're focused in, or you're proficient at like drafting stuff and putting it out there, but then you're comfortable when people are like, hey, this isn't working for me, changing it. So maybe you're not like overly committed to your first idea or something.
Well, I guess I just feel like, these people are really good musicians and they have good ideas, and I'm glad that they took the time to listen to what I was trying to do and came up with an idea that they wanted to, like, we can make it better by adding this thing, so I try to listen to that as much as possible. Occasionally somebody has an idea that just doesn't like strike me, but they're, Yeah. So they're just.
I think that makes sense. I appreciate that. Yeah. It's interesting to hear how someone kind of drives a project forward like that and how they can pull the rest of their team along with them.
Yeah. We're working on some stuff right now. We're starting to work on. I decided I was going to try an EP this time instead of like the 12 to 13 song album idea. Okay. So we're working on like a 5 to 6 song project, and but I'm gonna. I guess I'm thinking about lots of bells and whistles this time. Lots of. I've been listening to a lot of Frank Zappa lately. And so it's taken its toll on my imagination. So I have to. It just seems like I gotta like add some like little weird bells and whistles here and there that and I gotta make sure that it actually sounds good enough for other people to want to listen to. When it's finished. That's the hard part.
I kind of want to move on to the original music festival that you were talking about a little bit earlier. Could you introduce that concept there and what it's going to be like and where it's going to be?
Yeah, so I've been thinking for a while that we need a little more festival activity in the area, and I'm from St. Peter, and St. Peter just invested in this a pavilion in the park. And so it's just really state of the art, really nice looking pavilion. And the Rock Bend Folk Festival has been playing there. They just had their 30th year this year. There's a blues fest that they have in town in the beginning of June. And it just seemed like there's space for some other things. And so I was trying to think of what would really work here that's different than, what's already going on. To just start another festival like the other ones and have like 2 Rock Bends or something doesn't really appeal to me. So there's a lot of really good singer-songwriters and composers, not just in our area, but on our state. And so I just thought, we really need to celebrate that and encourage people to be creative. And so I came up with the idea that this is a Minnesota Original Music Festival. So if you are a Minnesota musician and you write your own material, you're a composer, you're a songwriter, whatever, then we're interested in the possibility of having you play. But it's more than just that. It's also there's an educational element. So I've been working. I've done various grants and attempted to get various grants, and a couple of the things that they're really interested in is there an educational element that's highly revered? There's some groups that's part of their mission to provide educational opportunities for musicians, and so we're going to have a workshop element over the course of the week that precedes the actual festival, and so there'll be. We've been talking to Liz Draper, for example, and she's looking at doing a jazz improv workshop for us. We've been talking to Nate Boots, and he does I think it's a peer review songwriting workshop. And Michelle apparently has taken Michelle Roach. She's part of our group. And she mentioned that she had taken that and it helped her when she was, having problems with a song. And so, we've been talking to him about doing things. So we're going to have a number of workshops. I've been partnering with various groups. We've been talking to the Minnesota Music Coalition, and they do something similar to what we're talking about, called the Caravan du Nord. But they go from place to they actually travel around the state, and they bring musicians and workshops and stuff to different places. So they're going to partner with us. KMSU Radio is partnering with us. And then I'm reaching out to some other places. There's a group called the Minnesota Association of Songwriters. There's a group called the Minnesota Bluegrass and Old Time Music Association. Groups that have lots of members that are very passionate about what they do. We're trying to figure out ways that we can help them and they can help us put on the festival. But in a nutshell, July 19th, 2022 is when we were planning on starting. We've got this activity called the 72-hour band challenge. It's going to be run by Ocho and his buddy Tom.
Punk Rock Tom.
Yeah, Punk Rock Tom.
Nice.
And so what they're going to do essentially is anybody who's interested, they'll write down like, here's my name, here's what I play, like guitar, vocals, whatever, and they throw them in and then they randomly select a band, and they get 3 or 4 people in your band, depending on how many people are signed up. And then he's got instructions. He did this in 2011, and it was a lot of fun. And so I was in one of the groups that participated in it, and they'd open up a dictionary, and then they'd randomly select a word, that you had to put in your lyrics. So your group has to write two or three songs, and then they have to perform them like 72 hours later. And then the winner of that performs at the festival on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, however that works out. And so it was just a lot of fun. You're working with people that you've never met before, potentially, and in the case where you have end up with 3 drummers and, 1 bass player or something like that, they'll step in and try to rearrange it so that the instrumentation is something that works a little bit better. So that's one of the activities that we have in mind, and, trying to come up with other music activities like just jams where, maybe you're not really a jazz musician, but you're interested in it. So, the idea of having a small jazz combo that really knows what they're doing, and you can sit in and play some of their standards or something like that, or same with bluegrass and old time music, things like that.
And all of this is just the beginning of the week.
Yeah, well,
and then you get to like a performance.
Exactly. So we're going to have performances and workshops on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so the workshops are going to be in the afternoon, and the evenings there'll be live performances of various kinds. And then on the weekend we'll have a full festival on Saturday and Sunday, and that'll include lots of local musicians as well, but people also from across the state. We're trying to work all of those angles out, and everything is free, at least theoretically. And so we're trying to, working on getting grants. I just got a grant from the Tourism and Visitors Bureau from the town of St. Peter, so that they give us some money to help us promote the thing, and we can get a website going and things like that. And so there's a lot of grant opportunities in Minnesota. We're really lucky to live in a state that really puts an emphasis on art and creativity, and so just want to redirect some of that to our local area here. So.
Yeah,
that sounds like an awesome project.
I'm so excited. I'm 100% entering, regardless of if we do production. That sounds so fun.
Yeah, and if you guys are up for a challenge, documenting some of it, and I know KMSU is going to be recording some of the festival and playing it on the radio, and. We have a couple members from the Rock Bend Folk Festival that are helping us put it together. They know how to put festivals together. They've been doing it for 30 years. And then we have Michelle Roach, who plays in just about everybody's band in town. Eric Zimmerman, who's a world-class bassist. He's a really good composer as well. He's part of the group that I'm working with. And then we have others, people musicians. We've been recently been talking to Ben Scruggs and Chris Bertrand about, nice. Helping out. And so, it's meant to be a community event, and hopefully if we can get it going, it will be something that we can do regularly every year, and people can look forward to the Minnesota Original Music Festival.
Yeah.
Cool. just kind of pivoting off that and going back into the thing you said a little bit earlier about, you said you've been in the area for 10 years. Have you always been a Minnesotan, or are you a transplant?
Well, let me rephrase that. What I meant was that I have been playing music for about that long.
Oh.
Okay. I mean, I grew up in St. Peter. I graduated from St. Peter, actually, years ago. So I know, but I've lived all over the place. I moved out to Colorado, kind of early. I lived down in Texas, where I was a social studies teacher. I taught high school social studies for a while. I lived up north in northern Minnesota. I substituted in the Red Lake Indian Reservation schools. So I've done some of that. I worked as a professor at a college up in the cities, teaching IT. And so, I've dabbled in lots of things, done, been here and there and all of that. But I came back to St. Peter, and my parents live in the area, so I'd come back on occasion anyways. But you're in the grocery store and you're standing there, like buying your eggs, and there's these people that you went to school with, and you go, hey, wow, how's it going? I haven't seen you for 40 years, like what's going on, and it really struck me that it's really cool to live in a small town where you can walk down the street, and if you don't meet somebody, like that's strange, and living in the cities or in Denver or some of the places I've lived in. I remember once I was living in a house in Denver, and I met my neighbor the day I was moving out. I lived in this apartment for, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months, something like that. And I knew no one that lived there. And then the actual day I'm moving out of the apartment, you're moving furniture, and then somebody opens the door for me, and it's like the neighbor. And I go, oh, we had this conversation. It's like, really would have been nice to know you like 12 months ago, and we could have been friends, but not so much.
Was music always a thing though? Was it,
Well, I always was interested in music and being a musician. When I was younger, in junior high, I was in the band. Like I played a trumpet for a while, I remember in fourth grade, we played flutophones, that's everybody in fourth grade. If you can imagine a room full of fourth graders with flutophones,
is that a recorder?
Yeah, it's similar. I don't know. They call it a flutophone and recorder. I think there might be some marginal difference, but I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it's just a brand name. I don't know. But we're all playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, And at the time, my mom had been interested in classical music and had kind of, ran into her stash of classical music records. And so I was listening to Tchaikovsky, and I was listening to Beethoven and Schubert and all these classical things. And every time I came around to my birthday or Christmas, that's what I always asked for, can you get me Beethoven's Fourth Symphony? It's like, that's what I wanted, I was really into it. And I just really enjoyed that. So I kind of always thought of myself as, I'd like to be in an orchestra and play the violin. And so I had that in mind. And then over time, I discovered things like the Beatles and, other music and blues and, Pink Floyd and Jethro Tull and all kinds of things. And just, I started to play in a band when I was fairly young. And then I went to college, started teaching, kind of just put it on the back burner for like 30 years and didn't start back again seriously until about 10 years ago or so. And that's, and then I'm at the age where it's like, you either do what you're going to do with music now, or it ain't never going to happen. So I've been trying to make up for lost time. So,
I mean, I listen to people who are like 25 be like, the ship sailed. I'm like, the hell are you talking about? Like
the fucking ship hasn't sailed, dude.
No, like you could start playing an instrument like at any point in time. And I really like hearing people's stories of how they began playing and when they began gigging and stuff like that, because I mean, the arts are so connected to how we experience community and like, you know, how we interact with one another. So I'm really a big fan of people getting involved at any point in their life and you know, making stuff.
Yeah, you know, I had a friend of mine who was a guitar player, and I just recently reconnected with him after like, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. But he lives out in New Jersey now. He was a guitar player and singer, and I had gotten into bluegrass at the time, and so I was trying to play banjo, and so we got together and we started playing some music, and you know, hey, let's make a band, okay? So we started playing, and we were really bad. I mean, I remember once one of our first gigs, it might have been the first gig, and we were playing in a bar in Mankato, and we sucked. I mean, I was embarrassed to be standing there playing the instrument. I'm just like, oh, you know. And I remember Kit Kildall and Scotty, who were in this blues band at the time. They asked if they could play during our break. And they went up there. And I just, you know, after they got done playing this absolutely wonderful piece of blues music, I just wanted to like pick up my stuff and crawl out the back door. I was just like, wow, you know, I mean, but that was the first time I ever played in public, and I've come to understand that, you know, the more fearful and timid you are, the more you sound like shit, you know, and so, you know, belt it out there and have fun doing it, and at the very least, even if people don't necessarily enjoy your music, they'll have a good time watching you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the best advice I ever got was from Ocho, and he's like, well, the worst thing you could do is stop playing. Like, you could play like 15 wrong notes in a row, but like, if you stop, then everyone's going to know you're fucking up. Like, they might just think you're playing a bad song.
Yeah.
And that totally changed my confidence levels. I was like, oh, maybe they just don't get it.
Just got to play through to the end of the show.
Yeah, Ocho's good for that, you know. That's what the masters in psychology will do for you, I guess.
Certainly. He's a big help for me getting on stage the first few times I did.
I think too, an event like the one you're planning in St. Peter is sounds to me like the kind of thing that could inspire a lot of people to like want to get on stage, is seeing that kind of, because I know a lot of the musicians that you mentioned who might be there to give classes or support, and like I can imagine what kind of experience they could share, and seeing all that as a young person who's like thinking about music, that all that's happening here, like that's a way of bringing it together that I hadn't really considered before in that kind of workshop, educational, like just
absolutely.
You see them over there teaching a little group, something like that. That's cool.
In like Liz Draper, I mean, she literally plays with Grammy Award winning artists. She travels all over the place. I think she's going to Europe sometime with
Low.
Low.
She was just here a few weeks ago.
I believe it's Spain.
Yeah, right. You know, and
so many awesome.
And she's gonna be giving one of the workshops, and she's actually, it just happened that the Art Center in St. Peter, they have a series. It's called Hot Jazz Series, or Hot Jazz for Decent People, or something like that. It just so happens that Liz is playing for that Friday that we're having this. So they're already she's already playing a free concert in St. Peter that night.
That's cool.
So yeah, you know, and if she does a workshop, and then maybe we can get her, you know, we haven't quite figured out exactly what format she would be playing in the festival in, but you know, maybe we'll have to, you know, see if Charlie Parr or somebody like that's available, and you know, she plays with him. So
certainly. And I one other thing that was definitely on my list of to get to today is our recording coming up with Graviton.
Okay.
What are we to expect? Is there any new material? Is it going to be what do you have planned for us?
Well, we're working on some new material. I think that there's at least one of the tunes there that we can throw in the mix. I've always had this tendency to kind of jump the gun on some of the music. So, my gut instinct says, like, let's play this like right now for all the bigs, So you get on the stage and you start playing and just botch it. We just haven't played this particular song enough. So I'm mindful of past mistakes. And so, I want, and the other thing is it usually takes me 30 minutes or so just to get to the point where I feel like I'm in the groove, and it's kind of hard when you're doing something like this, which is like 30 minutes long or something like that, it's, so we are probably going to play, stuff. We'll usually start with a song called A Real Fine Day When the Circus Comes to Town, and it's just one of those songs that just falls into place. It's fairly easy song overall, but it has lots of twists and turns. It's got a part where it's in 3/4 time, and it's got a part where it's in 4/4 time, and some is fast and some is slow, and it's got the little the little circus, little theatrical thing in there, and stuff. So, but it's almost always exactly the same length of time. So I always know it's 3 minutes and 42 seconds long. And it always comes out that way.
Cool.
So, but at any rate, to answer your question, we are planning on bringing some new material. We also play this 1920s jazz piece called If You's a Viper. And Sarah Hoehn, we have a tuba solo on it. So if you've never heard a tuba solo, you're in for a treat. Tubert, the tuba, under the guidance of Sarah Hoehn, will be playing a little bit of an instrumental on that particular song. So,
and the venue, the Rendezvous Room, are you at all associated with that, or was it just by happenstance that you knew of it and to film there?
The answer is yes. So here's the thing that the guy that has that venue, Topher Jacobson, he's the one that he used to provide food at the Grand Cabaret in New Ulm, and then he had a restaurant called The Pantry, I think, across the street. Then he had some bands, and we used to play there, on and off. He ended up buying this warehouse. It's like, one of those 1800s things, probably built in 1880 or 1890 or something like that. It's like 23,000 square foot, big giant warehouse. And inside, a lot of the bars and venues in the area, they have metal ceilings, and they're cigar shaped, and the acoustics, they're not really made to listen to music in, whereas this place, it's all wood. It's a very large, very cavernous place, and the sound is really good inside of that space. And so he wanted to do something. They were using it as a living area, and then their family moved out, and then they moved into a house. And so he's going like, I want to do something with this space. And so I'm going, I know, let's do this. And he goes, well, that's what I was thinking about. We should do this. So we put a stage in there, and he got all the sound equipment for it. And, he's got there's a kitchen inside of the space, and it just looks really cool. He's got there's a piece of original art on the wall in back of the stage, which looks cool. And he's got lights, and, he's got streaming camera and stuff like that in there. I think Zach knows a little bit about it. He's been out there giving him some assistance with the, figuring out how to get streaming to work well.
Yeah, we had a chance to visit out there. It is very loungy. Like it would be a very nice place to kind of like, you could be as attentive to the music as you want or passively enjoy it. It has that
Right.
kind of
Right. And I guess I've just been encouraging Topher more than anything, like, yeah, you should do this. And if he needs help, it's like, you need somebody to help you, like, build a stage, I'll be there. So Jason Hilder and I went out there and helped them, put the stage down there. And, I had Damon Price come down one time and just look over the place and give him some ideas on, what kind of sound system, is going to be. And so, and like 2 weeks later, there it all is, just about everything that Damon had suggested, he's got sitting there on the floor, and then putting it all together and stuff, so I just been helping him out with that. We have played a couple of gigs there. I've got a series. I have a second band called Cabaret La Ruse, which is a 4-piece, which is pretty much just the same members in Captain Gravitone. We play a little bit different music. It's more of a New Orleans vibe, I suppose. But we have a music series there. And the intention is that our group, Cabaret La Ruse, would have a guest. And then we'd go in and that person would sit in with our band and we'd play music. They would play with us and then, we maybe play some of their songs. And I have a friend that I went to high school with, Scott Fultz, who's an amazing saxophone player. And he came and played a show with us down there. And, he's just like wailing away on the saxophone and, he can play anything, he's tell him what key it's in and you're off to the races, So we had a show there with him. And then just Captain Gravitone had a show there. But I have a 4-series show that's intended to go on next year. I think he's got some there's some issues that he's trying to work out with the place. But I'm planning on having Michelle Roach play a show with us, and Colin Scharf is going to play a show with us. Eric Zimmerman is going to sit in with us, and then somebody that I used to play with in a group called One Fast Move. She's the violin player for Useful Jenkins, Karen Kozak. She's going to come in and play a show with us as well. That's what we have planned. And the thing is that everything is paid for by the people who go there. This is like, you can only have like 30 people. This is a private club. It's kind of like going to a home concert is the idea. It's like, if you're not a friend of Topher, then, you're probably not invited. So it's not really a public space. So that's the other tricky part of it, So
I'm a fan of that though, to some degree. Like, I feel like a big part of getting things moving on a larger scale is having a little FOMO. I feel like a lot of people take the musicians that are in this area for granted sometime.
Yeah.
And the amount of like talent, determination, and drive that is put into a lot of these projects is just absolutely nothing to sneeze at. So like, I'm glad people are getting the people who care in the room, and I think that just leads to bigger and bigger stages as more people get engaged.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think he doesn't have, because it's a home concert kind of concept. It's just basically friends of Topher coming into his living room, watching a live show, so you can bring your own bottle of wine, for example. But he also needs to make enough money where he can pay the musicians and stuff. So the people who are going there, there's a ticket price, and but 30 people, that's just not a lot of people. So if you get 30 people throwing down $25, to watch a show, and you can bring your own liquor and things of that nature, that's kind of the idea behind it. So yeah, we're hoping that idea works, because it will certainly benefit musicians in the area for sure.
Yeah, we're excited to see that project evolve, and it's certainly neat to see that someone trying that.
Yeah, well, you'll get an idea, when you guys bring your camera stuff out to do the January 9th thing. So it'll be cool.
Certainly.
I've kind of ran the gamut on my questions. Do you want to do plugs, or do you have any other stuff you want to get around to?
Plugs. Well, Right now, there's not a lot. I mean, we're kind of in a hiatus mostly. The only place we've been playing is the Rendezvous Room. We've done that twice. But right now, during COVID, they're requiring proof of vaccination to even like go and watch a show. So, if you're not vaccinated, you can't play there. And if you're not vaccinated, you can't go there, and which is good for me. Everybody in my group, well, not everybody, most of the people in my group have, like family members or underlying conditions themselves or whatever, and so they're all a little bit, concerned about being in small spaces with lots of people, especially under the current situation. So we're working on recording right now, and we're working on, we have your show coming up, and then we have, getting ready for festivals in the summertime, and hopefully when things better and easier and less dangerous, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly. Well, we're all about keeping folks safe here. So
Yeah.
I feel the anxiety. I can't tell you how many casts went the way of cancellation on account of COVID. So I'm glad it's safe enough to do this now, at least.
Yeah.
And we look forward to that capture at the Rendezvous Room. And I hope that we keep our finger on the pulse of the Minnesota Regional Music Festival too, because I would like to do a little bit more to plug that as it gets closer as well.
We have a Facebook page right now, so if you haven't liked it already, make sure it's called Minnesota Original Music Fest or something like that. We have Emily Stark. She is the person who's, she's kind of our social media guru, and so she updates it regularly. And so as we figure out who's going to be playing there and who's helping us put things together and what workshops we're going to have, we'll be posting all that stuff there. So
Sure.
share it and encourage people to like it and come to the shows and workshops.
Yeah.
We also need feedback on, so as musicians, what can we do that would benefit you in some way? Things like just like some of the business aspects, for example, do you know how to do your taxes as a musician? What should you be looking for and doing? Should you be a member of ASCAP? Should you be a member of BMI? What are they doing for you? Why do you want to be a member of those groups? How do you get your streams out there? How do you get your music on college radio stations? I can think of a whole bunch of things that I personally would like to know, but at the end of the day, we're trying to get workshops that will benefit and impact people, in our area and in Minnesota in general who want to come. Like how can we make your particular career as a musician better, easier, whatever. That's what we're trying to accomplish with that.
Mm-hmm. And if folks want to find the Captain Gravitone stuff that's already on the internet, where are they looking for that?
Well, we have a website. Probably won't believe it, but it's on captaingravitone.com. And so there's stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And our Facebook page, we have a Captain Gravitone and the String Theory Orchestra Facebook page. And, we post things about what we do from time to time and post, like we had a couple of videos from our show with Scott Foltz that I posted on there. There's a YouTube channel as well. I think it's called Captain Gravitone. And so, subscribe to that. And, I think the Rendezvous Room is going to do something like that as well. They'll have a YouTube page where you can, keep track of streams. Yeah. And whatever they have whatever they're going to have there, I know Ian Hilmer's played a show there already, but right now they're kind of in the experimental mode. They're just trying to figure out what works and how do we make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know a lot of musicians are probably chomping at the bit to try to figure out, like, how do I get a show there? And it's like, well, he might not be quite there yet. He's just trying to figure out how to make this. We know it's going to work. It's just like, what does it take? How does this make how does it pay for itself? How does it impact musicians? How does it help Topher? It's got to be something that has a benefit to everybody that's working on it, and figuring out the exact process is the tricky part of it.
Right on.
Yeah.
One final question for
Sure.
me. Does Captain Gravitone have a superpower? And if so, what is it?
Captain Gravitone does have a superpower. It's empathy, tolerance, and love.
Wow.
All
Those
right.
are some good ones.
Yes. So, it's like, if you can imagine what the world would be like if people utilized those 3 powers that they already have and stepped it up a little bit, what kind of life this would be. So, think about walking in somebody other's shoes, and if you're finding somebody there that doesn't quite meet what your expectations are, being okay with that, and just, exercising your ability to love other people, I guess. And that's where superpowers come in. And strangely enough, all of us have those superpowers. We just don't all, I guess, use them to the same level.
Well, I feel like that's a pretty good way to send it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks for
it.
coming on the show.